Hello, everybody, and welcome to Dot to Dot. Well, today I'm going to talk about some of the things they found on season 11. Some of the things that I've actually been talking about for a long time, as far as the geometry on Oak Island and basically where, the W where, not the who, what. It's basically where on Oak Island that you may discover whatever is hidden on Oak Island. I really found it interesting. The connection to the stone piles, Nolan stone piles, is coming to be a part of the big conversation. Also, the stone triangle and Nolan's cross, and how they may be related to the Knights Templar. And I want you all to believe or know that I believe that the Knights Templar, at least the Crusades, the people that were involved in the Crusades, uh, especially King Richard the First. I believe that it's very possible that there is a connection there with Oak Island. But let's go to Google Earth, and I'll start with all the different connections that I've found this season or understood this season, mainly due to the discovery of the swamp cone. Now, what I'm going to show you here is pretty much factual because we can see on Google Earth the swamp cone right here. And here I have a picture of it, screenshot from the show. And there's the swamp cone, and here's some machinery. So this is the swamp cone. So all the measurements that I do and everything I show you is from Google Earth. And then the other thing that I want to talk about is what I call the rose stone. Now, the rose stone is located right here, and it is basically what is called the large boulder on the 1937 survey. And the 1937 survey was copied. This is a reproduction or a drawn copy from the person who was actually involved in the actual 1937 survey conducted by Gilbert Hedden, whose name was George Bates. So if there's anybody who knows about the configuration of the geometry and the drilled rocks and the stone triangle, it would be George Bates. Another person who actually was involved in or around during the time the stone triangle was still there was Robert Restall. And Robert Restall provides a north south line. And let me take the north south line off. And this north south line that goes to the drilled rock comes from the stone triangle. So, this is another survey that I use that actually gives us the position of the stone triangle. Now, this is registered from the George Bates survey through the drilled rocks. So, the position of the drilled rocks on Smith's Cove and north of the stone triangle are the same as the George Bates. They're overlaid. The position of the large boulder on Restall's is a little bit off from what George Bates has, but the registration of this survey goes from the drilled rock north of the North Triangle and the drilled rock in Smith's Cove. So this is how I position the stone triangle. But if we take a circle from the center of the rose stone and the swamp cone, we get the position right here of the stone triangle. Now, the stone triangle, the way it worked was a north-south position went through the center, going due true north-south, and it also had a angle. It was actually pointing approximately 7 degrees. It was actually 6.6 degrees, and I've worked out this geometry here. And here is 4 feet, here is 6 feet, and this is the geometry that comes from it when you use those numbers, 4 feet. You get this angle right here as 23.4, and when you subtract that from the 30 degrees, which would be half of this angle here, you get 6.6 degrees. So that's how you determine the angle of the stone triangle. And that is the position of the stone triangle. And what does that have to do with how does it correspond with how we find what is on Oak Island? Well, I'm gonna show you that in a minute, but we're gonna show you another discovery. Now, this discovery was the Quest of Oak Island podcast by John Stemmer. They give they have like these drone shots, this drone that flies over. And a while back, this drone shot was provided to me by John Stemmer showing this south stone. Now, this south stone right here, and I'll show you that it is positioned on Google Earth. You can see it on Google Earth right here. But the position of this south stone right here is due north, or I'm sorry, due south of the drilled rock on the 1937 survey. Now, the interesting thing about the south stone is this angle from the south stone to the stone triangle is approximately it is 6.6 degrees. And this one from the drilled rock to this drilled rock is 6.5 degrees as I measure it. And so they're very, very close to being the same angle from east to west in opposite directions. This one being 6.5 degrees south of west, and this one would be 6.6 degrees north of the east-west line. So this is very interesting, this aspect. Another thing I'm going to show you later, but there's a line. Oh, I can show you now. I can just rush ahead here. Just bear with me. Is this line here that goes from the rose stone through the drilled rock to cone E. This angle right here is 6.6 degrees. It is 6.6 degrees right here, and it is parallel with this line that goes from the south stone. That's crazy. And it goes through the drilled rock position almost perfectly. So this is cone E to the rose stone, which goes through the drilled rock. So we're going to talk about cone E later. It has a lot of interesting relationships to the drilled rock and this area right in here. So let's get on to the stone, the Nolans cross connection here. So the Nolans cross connection, we found this was proposed by Brian Farrow a while back. And this line from cone C to what I believe is the drilled rock. Now, Brian thinks it is where the destination of what is hidden on Oak Island, but I disagree. I think this is just part of the geometry, and that this drilled rock here is the destination of where it is. The other thing too is this is 70.5 18-foot rods exactly to this drilled rock here. And also a lot of these other, like this line from the swamp cone to the stone triangle is 37 rods, which is 666 feet. Pretty creepy. And this one also is 37 rods, 666 feet. These lines down here are 23 and a half rods. And if you go and you start looking at the geometry between cone C, cone A, and this triangular feature here, you get this triangle here, And you also get a division of rocks, drilled rocks. Now, these drilled rocks were proposed this season by Emiliano Sacchetti, and the drilled rocks represent, and I don't know this for sure because I don't know exactly where they are, but if they were in the positions that I propose, this is the geometry that it sets up. And the drilled rock on lot 12 is the radius from the drilled rock on 15 that gives you the distance to the drilled rock north of the stone triangle. And I made a video about this. And another thing that is proposed by Brian Farrow is that the midpoint from the middle between cone E and the headstone, if you go through cone B, it ends up at the drilled rock here too. So there's definitely a connection that is all pretty much focused on this drilled rock or this area. Now, whether something is hidden in this area, we don't know. Another thing about this area too, near the garden shaft, is this is the baby blob area. So it's very interesting indeed. So this is the Nolans cross. Part of the Nolans cross connection is the cone C, the cone A, to down to what I believe is the drilled rock. We have the midpoint in the axis of Nolans cross going through cone B. So it's pretty interesting also that the cone C to the drilled rock is 16 rods, which is 288 feet. Now remember that 288 feet is the same distance from cone E to cone D. The drilled rock from the drilled rock 12 to cone A is 5.5 rods or 99 feet. The drilled from cone C to the drilled rock 15 is 774 feet or 43 rods. And from cone A to the drilled rock is 49 rods, which is 882 feet. So these line measures are basically giving me a little verification that the measuring system was 18-foot rods. So let's go to the swamp cone, and let me take some of this off here. And let's go back to the swamp cone and look at the relationship between the swamp cone and Nolan's cross and the drilled rocks. Now, I did a video on this before, but this is the swamp cone. And it's the way it's being measured, and I'm measuring it here. Now, this is mathematically, this isn't exactly 90 degrees, a little bit over. But if you take the measurement of this line right here, it's exactly 35 rods from basically the tangent of the swamp cone. And if you go up, and it goes basically by the side of, let me take this so you can see it better. It goes by the side of cone B, goes up there, and then it goes up to cone A. Now, cone A on Google Earth is a little hard to see, but you can sort of get an outline. And this white is not it. Really, it's right here. You can see sort of the top of it. It's arced here. Cone A, this is what cone A looks like. And we got a great picture this year of cone A and what it looks like. This thing is massive too. If I remember right, Rick Lagina's head came to about right here. So this is like 7 feet tall. And I think around it's probably at least 6 to 7 feet in diameter. This is a huge stone. They say that Fred Nolan moved this here. I don't know if he even with a bulldozer, you can move that big of a stone. So this is cone A, and notice here's the top of it right here, and I have that measuring coming basically to the north side of cone A off the tangent here. I know it's hard to see, and maybe it's not, I'm sort of having seeing things, but I think this is it right here. And this is 35 rods, exactly the measurement of this line. So this is just to maybe reinforce the theory that the 18 feet is the way it is measured. Now, the other thing about the swamp cone too is, and I showed you, is that the swamp cone goes from the drilled rock through this drilled rock to the swamp cone right here. So this swamp cone has a relationship of basically not only to this drilled rock, but also to this drilled rock here. So it's got two relationships to these two drilled rocks. And the stone triangle, of course, and it has that. So this is the swamp cone. The other aspect about the swamp cone too is its relationship to this is the north anchor. Oh, that's right. Is its relationship to cone E. Now, cone E, the swamp cone, is exactly the same distance from cone E as it is from cone A. It is on and now this circle doesn't show it exactly, but here's the distance right here, which is 48 rods, and this distance is 864 feet, and it goes to this side of the swamp cone. Notice how this is it is 90 degrees. This line. Oh, that's going through the circle. Never mind. So this is the distance here, and you can see where it goes to cone A, and it goes pretty much almost to where that line stops that comes from the swamp cone. So this is the distance from here to cone A, if you remember, is the same 864 feet, which is 48 rods. So that is the relationship to the swamp cone and cone E. Now, if you remember, cone E doubled from the headstone out, which is the vault theory, the north anchor that comes from Zena Halpern's map, is 1,440 feet. And from cone E, this is also a measurement to the drilled rock. So that's what the north anchor. Now, the swamp cone also has perhaps a relationship to the quadrilateral, which was up in this area. Now, these lines here have basically a meaning. This is going to the 432 extension to cone C, and these are just speculative lines, but it is possible that the quadrilateral is due north from the swamp cone. And one of the things that caught my attention was this year was the drawing that was found in a book here. And if you notice, we have this pointing towards the swamp area. Maybe this is the swamp cone. And this square thing here is pointing pretty much to the place where the quadrilateral would be. And maybe this is depicting the quadrilateral. Some people suggest that these are maybe flood tunnel system, which would fully uh, be in line with some of the flood tunnel or the hydraulic systems that Olivier from Oak Island from Oak Island Research and I have proposed that relate to the vault theory. So this is possibly pointing towards the swamp cone, and this is possibly pointing towards the quadrilateral, which may be due north from the swamp cone. So, what is all this leading up to? Well, let's go now to the stone piles. Now, the stone piles, the Curse of Oak Island gave us this picture of what the stone piles may mean. Now, I've had Nolan's stone piles in the vault theory for about 3 years now. Uh, but this gives us a little different information. The stone piles on Fred Nolan's survey, these three are in a line and one is not offset like this. And I've tried to get somebody from the team to give me the positions of these stone piles so I could verify them, but I haven't yet got them. So everything I'm going to show you is somewhat speculative. It's calculated by using this configuration that the Oak Island team gave on the show and also the measurements that came from Fred Nolan's survey. So let me put the stone piles up there. So this is where I believe the stone piles are. The stone pile, I started with this bare spot here on Google Earth, thinking that maybe this could possibly be where they were filming and they cleared away one of the stone piles. And these white circles are actually the size. This is 12 feet in diameter, which is the size of the stone piles. So, according to Fred Nolan's survey with the stone piles and combined with the Oak Island configuration, and the theory that I have about their meanings and what they may be pointing to, a lot more came out of this configuration. So I'll start with the Nolan's cross vectors and also the Oak Island or the vault theory. Let me take this off here first. Take the swamp cone here. So here's the stone piles, and this is just a possibility, but you can see that this stone pile goes to possibly is a north-south line to what we call the 432 extension. Used to be the 429, but Brian Farrow has enlightened me with the measurements. The other thing is the north anchor. And then we have two now that go. If you look at this one right here, this was a stone. It wasn't a stone pile, but it was a marked point on Fred Nolan's survey. And these two stone piles, and both of those go to cone D. Now, the other thing is that these, if they are configured this way, the other would be the south anchor, which is part of the vault theory. Another thing is too is that 63-degree angle line from the stone triangle now goes through the south anchor. Now this south anchor position was basically the idea of Arthur Gonzalez, who's a viewer of my show, and he gave me this information that led me to believe that the south anchor was off of in axis with Nolan's cross off of cone B and the headstone and cone C. So this is where I believe the south anchor is. If the stone piles are in this configuration, it could possibly be going through the drilled rock here, and going towards the south anchor. The other thing about these stone piles is they could have a possibility of vectoring towards the drilled rock right here, and this drilled rock right here, and that comes from this point going through this point and this point going through this point. And then also we have this line up here, which goes down, and amazingly, it goes through exactly where Dan Blankenship had 10x, goes through 10x and down to the South Stone. So if this configuration is correct, if I could verify it, these are the possibilities of what the stone piles could be pointing to, and that they have a link or a connection to the configuration down here of the drilled rocks on the east side. Another thing is too is this one that comes down here goes to what was the position of the HO stone. Now that came from Robert Restall's survey, because Robert Restall has right here, these are all the broken fragments of the stone that was actually exploded sometime, I can't remember when it was, before 1937. And this is where all those rock fragments are. And I believe the HO stone was the stone that was blown up. So this is where the HO stone is. So this could be possibly the configuration. Oh, and of course we have one more. This was on my past one also, is that one line might be going out to the set point from these stone piles. So this is the stone pile, Nolan stone piles. I believe it does have a great significance to what is on Oak Island. And I think these guys are getting in line with what to study as far as what actually was there. So this is this right here is the connection between cone A and the stone triangle and the drilled rocks. So this is basically a final kind of resolution of these geometries and what they're pointing to. And it's a hidden location because all these are markers, all pointing towards basically these drilled rocks. Now, in the vault theory, we have that it is from cone A that there's a 45-degree angle, which is actually due true southeast, which is 135 degrees heading this way. And it goes through a position called what we call La Hamp, which is a valve that basically controls the flood waters going, or the hydraulic system flood waters going to the vault. And this is the 7-degree angle. And this is a picture of the 1930, I think it was taken in 31 or in the 30s sometimes. This is head and shaft. It's not complete yet. And this is the chapel shaft. And on this picture, you can see the stones that were in the 1937 survey right here. The drilled rock is down here somewhere. I believe this right here is the drilled rock. And this is all according to the 1937 survey. And, you know, you have a connection here between these rocks, which is on the 1937 survey, and they intersect right here on this 45-degree angle. Now, what's interesting, and it is calculated geometrically, that this angle here is 6.6 degrees. So this angle between this line to this line is 6.6 degrees. The same as these angles here. The other thing is too is we have the south anchor now in this position by Arthur Gonzalez. It is due. The south anchor is due west of the true north, where it intersects the 45-degree angle. So this, I believe, is the position right here. It is 36 feet or 2 rods from this position here. And this is where you would dig 40 feet. And when you dig 40 feet, you would tunnel at a 45-degree angle. And in a short distance, I believe about right here, you would enter a tunnel, which would take you to the hump. You'd shut off the valve, and then it would take you to the vault. Now, another thing too is you notice that the vault position, and I won't get into how this is, but this is geometrically configured according to the Zena-Halper map. It is due south from triangle 2, but it also is 12 rods from cone E, or 216 feet. And if you notice that the vault is in line with the swamp cone, goes through the swamp cone, and it goes to the end of the 6-degree line, the line that comes from the ninth, which is where you enter. So this is what I believe is where you enter into the tunnel system, or dig 40 feet. Dig 40 feet, and then you dig at a 45-degree angle to reach the tunnel entrance. And this is the way it shows you how to get there. So anyway, thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you later.